The fifth meeting of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, meeting in regular time on Monday, Wednesday, the 27th, excuse me, will come to order and will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Mo. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Ms. Nicholas? Here. Mr. Laz?
Here.
Ms. Crary?
Here.
Mr. Smalls?
Here.
President Ricks?
Here.
Mayor Mel?
Number 5 on our agenda, I ask for the approval of the minutes of the third meeting of December the 14th, 2015, and the fourth meeting of January the 11th of 2016. May I have a motion or noted to the example?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. Laz?
I'll vote yes, but I'll note that I was not present for the fourth meeting of January 11th.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
President Ricks?
Yes. All right, at this time I'll call for the report of the Mayor and City Council. Mr. Smalls.
No report at this time, Mr. President. However, I will like to take a minute to thank our
Excuse me.
city staff for all of the work they did. I was going to say Public Works, but I know it's not an effort just by Public Works. It's Public Works, it's Parks and Recs, our police department, and getting the city through a record-setting snowstorm. I know the mayor will have more about that in his report, but I just wanted to extend my appreciation for all of the hard work and dedication that our city staff did in getting the city through the storm. Thank you.
Excuse me. Ms. Nicholas?
Thank you. I just want to echo what Councilman Small said. All the hard work, the long hours, keeping the residents informed, and removing the snow. Thank you to all the staff.
Mr. Lance.
Yes, I just, while I was out shoveling and then reshoveling, I did get a lot of people stop by and said the city had done a fine job, and I passed that along to the mayor and to Mr. Fleming. And Rob, good job. That concludes my report.
I just want to give a shout out to the makers of Advil. I heavily relied on it this weekend. Appreciate it. Again, kudos to Public Works, Parks and Rec, and to the city staff and the police department. Condolences to the family of William Blitz as to his recent passing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. For my report, I have two small things, well, not so small. I'd like to announce officially, and excuse my voice, that we have received a letter of the City Council and the County Executive Kinnaman received a letter from Maryland Department of Transportation on our efforts to save the train stop. And the state of Maryland has now decided to join our efforts. So we have an official letter from them, and that we will continue to move forward with that effort. The other thing is that we senior citizens have to, thank you, we senior citizens have to be constantly aware of people that are trying to take advantage of us. Myself, I just received notice the other day that my bank has been compromised on a particular check that's fraudulent. So I ask all our senior citizens, and anyone for that matter, to be vigilant about their accounts and make sure that they're not being taken advantage of. Mayor Mo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Condolence to Lori Blitz on the loss of her brother, William Blitz. Lori's a member of our Historical District Commission, as well as Don Welliford, the loss of his son. Don's a member of the Planning Commission as well. And to Sergeant Charles Boswell, Laurel Police Department, a speedy recovery. We did have our Martin Luther King Day celebration and reef laying at the Municipal Center. I want to again thank city staff for their participation and continuing to remember that day. The snow, we want to thank members of our Public Works crew, our police department, our facilities within Park and Recs, and as well as code enforcement and many, many others who staff the EOC and participated in cleaning up. I think the efforts people noticed. I think you see what's going on around us where people are still haven't seen a snowplow. Rob, to you and your staff in particular, I want to thank you for the hard work that you all did for many, many hours. And as I said, for those that staff the EOC, answering telephones as well. And more importantly, I want to thank the community for participating and listening, and for the information that was put out by our Department of Communications on moving cars and sidewalks and others. And as you may have heard, we extended the cleaning of sidewalks. We asked that you do it as soon as possible, but we've extended it until Sunday. There is a lot of snow that had to be moved several times, which causes people issues when they clean their sidewalks and then being pushed back by plows. Not all city, a lot of state and in particular have come back through and caused some issues. So we also ask that you clean up around the fire hydrant as well as any storm drains that may have snow covered. Let me also thank the auxiliary of the Laurel Fire Department for providing food to city staff as well as fire department members and other volunteers. It was we appreciate that very much. We did lift the snow emergency plan at 1 o'clock today. And again, we ask that you continue to clean up and help us where possible. A couple of announcements, one announcement, the lovely ladies of Laurel celebrating the National Mentoring Month 2016 at Dwight D. Eisenhower Middle School from 6:30 until 8 o'clock on January the 28th, which is tomorrow. Justique Gabri for the reappointments for the Board of Trustees for 125-16 to 125-20, and Jan Abel for the Board of Trustees, 125-16 to 125-20, and I'd ask for your approval of those appointments, Mr. President, reappointments. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. May I have a motion by the council?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the mayoral reappointments to the Board of Trustees made by the mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Ms. Crary?
Yes.
President Ricks?
Yes. And thank them for serving. Go ahead, Mayor.
I did want to make sure for the record, BWI reported 29.2 official inches of snow. Nothing official, but Marty is certified, we found out, to be able to take readings of snow here in the city of Laurel. Marty came with 27.2 inches, correct? 27.1, excuse me, I don't want to get that wrong. 27.1 inches of snow here in the city of Laurel, so I want to make sure we put that into the minutes as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. City Administrator. We'll move on to the general public hearing, and I'll open that at 5:09. Is there anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 5:09 and a half, and we'll move on to item number 9 on our agenda. This is the second public hearing on an ordinance number 1861, text amendment number 239, an ordinance to amend Article 1 entitled Zoning of Chapter 20 entitled Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, to amend Section 20-1 entitled Definitions and Section 20-6 entitled Table of Residential Uses, and to add somebody say it. Thank you. Charitable and philanthropic institutions that permitted in a use in public institutional zone and providing for an effective date. Mr. Brock. Mike.
there wasn't sufficient time to advertise between the planning commission and this hearing date, so it'll be necessary to continue this for a third public hearing on February the 8th, I believe,
Correct,
at 7 o'clock.
correct.
12. At 7 o'clock.
February the 8th, it should be, Monday the 8th.
What is it?
Monday the 8th,
The
February
8th, I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and continue that as an administrative fact. Thank you. Item number, still got to do it? All right. Well, let me note for the record that I'll open the public hearing at 5:10. There is no one here wishing, I believe, to speak. And seeing none, close the public hearing at 5:11. Item number 10, second public hearing on ordinance number 1862. Text amendment number 240, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel, amending the Laurel Unified Land Development Code, section 20-7.18, table of commercial uses, and section 20-22.72, special exceptions to permit certain state licensed premises of licensed dispensaries of medical cannabis, for the record marijuana, in conformance with the Maryland state law and providing an effective date. Mr. Brock.
Yes, Mr. President, they're the same issue with City Ordinance 1862. We didn't have sufficient time to advertise between Planning Commission and this public hearing. Therefore, it'll need to be continued until February the 8th for a third hearing.
Okay, continue to February the 8th. For the record, I'll hold a public hearing at 5:12. Is anyone wishing to speak? Mr. DePietro.
Bob DePietro, 502 Gorman Avenue, Laurel, Maryland. I apologize, a little bronchitis here. I came here tonight to speak in behalf in favor of this particular piece of legislation. For the record, a full disclosure, I represent a limited liability corporation here in Maryland that is an applicant for such a facility. In fact, they're an applicant for a grow, a process, and a dispensary. I think it's critical that when the information comes on these facilities that we have very open discussions about what's going on, because there is a lot of misinformation as to what's taking place. But the Maryland General Assembly has passed a law for medical marijuana only. It is not for recreational use or for recreational sale. And in the case of the dispensaries, which requires a separate license, there can only be 2 such facilities in each of the legislative districts in the state. So of the 47 senatorial districts, there will be 94 dispensaries. Just to confuse it a little bit more, if you happen to get a growing license, each one of the 15 licenses, there will only be 15 places in the state which can grow the marijuana for medical purposes. Each of them will have a dispensary also to be located somewhere in the state. So if it's the 94 plus the 15, there'd be 109 dispensaries in the state of Maryland. But yet only 2 in the 21st legislative district. The thing that I think is important about the legislation, it's requiring a special exception hearing. I think it would be good maybe at the next work session if people like myself can come in and answer any specifics and or questions that council would have as to what these facilities are. These are not open to the public, by the way. These are closed facilities. Your entrance must be done with a photo ID, and you must be carrying a medical marijuana card from a certified physician within the state of Maryland to enter the facilities. The facilities are designed in a very highly secured fashion. You just can't walk in and somebody's going to say, "Hi, how are you doing? Let me see that card." You'll be into a lobby secured still from the building where your credentials will be checked out. Those credentials will be computerized before you'll be able to enter the facility. The interesting thing because this is medical marijuana, this is a small version of a drugstore, but not one that is open to the public. The misnomer here is that this is a facility which will sell marijuana for people to take out and go smoke. The truth of the matter is that the United States as a whole is very behind the curve in the amount of research that's been done on the medical side of marijuana. If you take a country like Israel, they've been doing this research now for almost 15 years, using their entire university system and creating anywhere from salves, creams, pills, lozenges, sprays of different varieties using the cannabis oil, which produces these, and the processing can actually allow you to control what the public would consider the dangerous part of marijuana. The chemical itself can be controlled just as if a doctor would write you a prescription for a certain amount of a drug for you to take for a specific illness that you may have. The gentleman that I'm involved with lost his wife 5 years ago from a very, very rare cancer. They traveled internationally to try to make her situation as comfortable as possible. When we got into the research on this, and the team that he particularly has put together is very renowned in the industry and has been at the research business for well over a decade. And they have produced various strands from cannabis to actually treat specific diseases. They are not FDA approved. These are things that are now taking place at the FDA level. But as you're also aware, the federal government still considers marijuana a dangerous substance. So it's a very controversial, but there is now over half of the states in the United States have either a medical marijuana allowance within the state, or in some cases, both medical and recreational. Colorado is the one you hear the most about, but quite frankly, some of the research indicates is not so much recreational purchases as there are the medical purposes. And so Maryland has written very stringent guidelines. There is a commission I would recommend to the general public or any of the members here. It is called the Natalie Prada, P-R-A-D-A, the Natalie Prada Marijuana Commission. It is run by the state. They thought that the 15 license would be issued by now to begin the growing process. There were over 150 applications for the 15 grow license. There were over 800 applications for dispensaries and several applications for processing the medical marijuana. So they have been overwhelmed. Currently, the site will tell you that the evaluation will continue, and they do not expect to have licenses issued until late spring or early summer of this year. So this is a ways off. I commend the city for getting into this early, producing a piece of legislation so that there will be direction for people to understand. There is on that website a record of all the applications and where the dispensaries wish to locate. And in the 21st, I believe there were 7 out of the 800 applications to be located somewhere in the 21st legislative district, which obviously runs from College Park to the far east over towards Odenton to the boundary in Montgomery County. So it's a rather large territory. And I'd be happy at any time to meet with the council member individually, collectively, within regulations of the law. If you have any questions, be able to walk you through all the research that we've completed ourselves over the last year. So thank you for your time and ask for your support.
Thank you. For myself, I would welcome and invite you to our work session so that we can ask you some questions on the topic. I'm very much interested in the security end of it, for what I spoke about earlier, that, you know, how the information that is being siphoned off the internet and how it's then created into other documents. The security is a very important part for me, And I'd like to have more of a conversation on that particular topic. Any other questions? Jack, I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. President. There was, after meeting with Mr. DePietro, there was one change in the legislation, section 22.72A1. Premises shall not be located within 1,000 feet of a dwelling or residential lot line. Dwelling or residential lot line was struck. After we met with Mr. DePietro, we looked at the zoning map, and that would essentially eliminate all the properties that were contiguous to residential and commercial uses. So we're recommending that that language be struck, and so it should read, premises shall not be located within 1,000 feet of a lot line of a public or private school or real property owned by the Prince George's County Board of Education or a house of worship. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council on this topic? Thank you very much for Mr. Petro. Appreciate that. We'll move on to item number 11, and that is the second public hearing with possible action on an ordinance number 1864, an ordinance to amend certain project budgets in the FY 2016, FY 2021 capital improvements program. That's reading for the public. Ms. Saylor, are you going to speak on this?
I have nothing new at this time.
Nothing new.
We've discussed this twice
Okay.
before.
Do I then have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the ordinance number 1864 to amend certain project budgets in the FY 2016 through FY 2021 capital improvement program.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Creary. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Les.
Yes.
President Ricks.
Yes.
Mayor Mo.
We'll move on to item number 12, introduction and first public hearing on resolution number 1-16, a resolution adopting regulations for the implementation of the city's affordable housing program as required by the Laurel City Code, Chapter 11, Planning and Development, Article 3, Affordable Housing Program. So I open, it is the second reading, that's right, it is. So I'll open the public hearing on this at 5:23. Is there anyone wishing to speak? I'm calling on Mr. Brock.
Yes, Mr. President, before you is Resolution 116. This is a update of the administrative regulations that implement the City Ordinance 1830, which is the Affordable Housing Program. The administrative regulations have not been updated since April of 2008, and this brings these up to current percentages and current median incomes.
Thank you, sir. We discussed this at our work session. What's the pleasure of the council? I'll close the public hearing at 5:23.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we adopt resolution number 1-16, adopting regulations for the implementation of the city's affordable housing program as required by Laurel City Code.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Madam Clerk?
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Les,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks,
Yes.
Mayor Mo.
Item number 13, introduction with first public hearing on ordinance number 1863. An ordinance to amend the city code of the city of Laurel, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 9, Community Redevelopment Authority, Section 2.186.1, Membership, to provide for a council member of the city of Laurel to serve in the position on the board. This is the first hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at 5:24. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to suspend the rules.
Mr. President, I
Yes,
move
ma'am.
to suspend the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Les. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les.
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks.
I vote yes. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Do I first, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Ladd,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks,
Yes.
Mayor Mel.
At this particular point, I'll call on the mayor for a mayoral appointment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for approving that moving forward. The CRA has several business or several pieces of business need to be taken care of, which I require certain signatures. So with that said, let me take this opportunity to nominate Councilmember Donna Crary for the one-year position on the CRA.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take a motion from the council.
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Laz.
Yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
President Ricks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 15, introduction with first public hearing on resolution number 2-16, a resolution of the mayor and city council of Laurel approving a right-of-way agreement between the city of Laurel and Prince George's County, Maryland, grantors and the Baltimore Gas and Electric grantee, and authorizing the mayor and the city council, mayor or the city council of Laurel to sign a right-of-way agreement. This is the first public hearing. I'll open that at 5:26. Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at 5:27, and this will be on our schedule for our work session on the 8th of February. Item number 16, introduction and first public hearing on resolution 3-16, a resolution ratifying the civil emergency civil emergency declared by the mayor on January the 20th, and agreeing to extend such emergency until the snow emergency no longer exists, and the mayor presents to the city council with a resolution to end such civil emergency. This is being read into the record, Mr. I'm sorry, I'm drawing blank.
Fleming, that is.
I'm sorry, thank you. It's been a long day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a little background on,
He's been napping all day.
I have not been napping.
sounds like he might have missed his nap, but anyway. Just a little background on the emergency declaration. Recognizing the potential for a major weather event, we recommended to the mayor that he declare a civil emergency in advance of the event itself. We are also recommending that this emergency stay in effect after the ratification tonight, if that is if that's the council's prerogative. But the reason we did the advance declaration, and the reason we're asking that the declaration remain in effect after the event is the declaration covers the city's preparation, the city's response, and the city's recovery. A presidential declaration for disaster funds, if we have an emergency on file covering our preparedness efforts, our response, and our recovery efforts, and recovery is still ongoing and will likely be ongoing for at least, in my mind, another 2 weeks. All of that is captured in the potential for reimbursement for federal disaster funds. So we're asking for your ratification on this evening, and we'll be back once the city's response to this effort comes to a close. We're also asking that you suspend the rules. Our solicitor, Mr. Shea, has advised me that this resolution to be ratified this evening would require a suspension of the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Crary. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Laz,
Yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks.
Yes. We have a motion.
Mr. Ricks, I move for the adoption of Resolution 3-16.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Les,
Yes.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
Mr. Smalls,
I vote yes.
President Ricks,
Yes.
Mayor Mel.
I'll concur, thank you.
Is there any other business?
Hey, Mike?
That's it. We stand adjourned.